No matter how much you love an artist's work, sometimes you want something specific that you just can't find ready-made. This is where commissions come in. When you approach an artist for a commission, you get to be co-creator of something that's completely unique to you in your favourite artist's signature style. So today, I want to have a chat about some of the do's and don'ts of working with an artist and answer some of the questions you might have about the commission process. What will make your chosen artist love you forever, and what will send them scurrying back to their bedroom with only Bob Ross videos for company? If you just found me, by the way, my name's Jo. I'm a full-time artist based on a narrowboat in Wales. I make mostly textile art dolls and sometimes do a bit of illustration work too. If you're an artist yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm speaking just from my own experience, so if you have a different perspective or you think I've missed anything, let me know down in the comments. What are your expectations when someone requests a commission? So firstly, why might you want to commission a piece of art rather than buy something ready-made? Whether it's a portrait of a real-life person or a sculpture that completes a unique theme, getting a piece of art made to order can be the difference between something that blends in and something that really stands out. You could wait for something you like to come up, but why not request something that you're really going to love? I've made wedding-themed dolls, birthday dolls, fantasy creatures, pirates, punks, clowns, owls, cats, and even an Egyptian pharaoh. If you pick an artist whose style is compatible with what you're looking for, the sky's the limit. So once you've found the perfect artist for your project, how do you even know whether they accept commissions or not? Some artists are always open to commissions, some may have a long waiting list, and some prefer just to stick to working on their own projects. You can get a good idea by checking their website or wherever they sell the work. If you can't find any info that way, then go ahead and send them a polite message. And by polite message, I mean a polite message. And if they say no, then just thank them and move on. I shouldn't have to say this, but harassing artists isn't cool. We'll come back to that later. A lot of artists will have a few words on their social media bio saying commissions open or closed. So make sure you check that first. Assuming an artist is open for commissions and is happy to work with you, I think a lot of people can feel a little bit unsure about the etiquette of working with an artist. Do you need to have a fixed idea of what you want, or is it better to leave the creative vision to them? Personally, I feel like it's good to have a general idea of what you want. If you reach out to an artist and say that you don't want any of the work they have available, you want something different making for you, but you don't actually know what you want, that can come across as a little bit confusing. A good artist will be happy to discuss your ideas with you. If they've been doing this for a while, they'll have a good idea of what works and what doesn't, and what's unrealistic or at least outside of their remit. They might also have a few suggestions that you haven't even thought of, so it's good to be at least a little bit flexible. I always think the commission process works best when it's a collaborative project between artist and client or customer. If there's something you want to include that's non-negotiable, make sure you tell them this at the start. It's better to make your expectations clear up front, so the artist can tell you whether or not that's possible, rather than being disappointed weeks down the line. If you tell the artist that you want it to be their vision and interpretation, don't be surprised if their vision and interpretation is different to yours. I took on a commission a few years ago from a lovely lady who'd bought dolls and paintings from me before. No hate to her, she had some awesome ideas for a historic fantasy art doll, but unfortunately she wasn't really able to elaborate on exactly what she expected. I did ask if she had any reference photos to work to, but she told me she wanted it to be my interpretation of the theme. So I did the best I could with the information I had. Unfortunately, when the doll was ready, she then told me that that wasn't what she expected at all. There were a lot of details that she told me at this point that she hadn't mentioned at the start. After several weeks of planning and hard work, the order was cancelled. Some of her expectations could have been met if I'd had some reference photos to work to. Some of the things she wanted weren't going to be possible due to things like packaging restrictions and the available materials. So things would have been made a lot less complicated if we'd been able to discuss the details first. Fortunately, that customer decided in the end to purchase a ready-made doll, and the doll I've made for the commission found a home elsewhere, so it all worked out okay in the end. But I did learn a lot from that. I'm a lot more careful now to make sure that myself and the customer are on the same creative page from the start. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, don't forget to hit the like button and let me know. You can also subscribe if you want so you don't miss the next one. If you'd like to support the channel further, super thanks are always appreciated, and you should be able to see some links below to some of the art I have available. Another thing that can cause anxiety for both artists and customers is how commissions are priced. Different artists will have different ideas about how to price their work. Some work to an hourly rate and some have fixed prices depending on the size of the piece. When it comes to art and handmade items, charging by the hour isn't always practical, and it's not always the best method of pricing. A beginner might take a week to make an item, whereas a more experienced artist might make the same item in 3 days. But the item that took 3 days to make might be higher quality than the item that took a week. So which are you going to pay more for? There's no incentive for an artist to improve their skills if it's going to result in them being paid less for the same work. A lot of artists will take their experience into account with pricing. You're not paying for the week that it took to make that item, you're paying for the years that it took for them to learn to make that item. You're paying for their expertise. I think most artists end up undercharging anyway. A lot of people look at handmade items and art and think they're too expensive simply because they can't afford to buy them, when in reality the artist is barely making minimum wage. If an artist has ready-made items already up for sale, then that should give you a good idea of the price range. If you have a fixed budget, then make sure the artist knows up front, and then they'll be able to tell you whether it's feasible or not. Oh, and exposure to your friend who happens to run a magazine or a popular Facebook page is generally not an accepted form of payment. I think most of us have had those requests from time to time. Once you've agreed a price and you're ready to get started, you might be wondering just how involved you can be in the project. This depends very much on the artist. Some people might prefer to be left alone to get on with it. I'm personally quite happy to involve the customer. It helps to avoid situations like the one I mentioned earlier. If you'd like progress photos or there's something that you're undecided on, then make that clear from the start, so the artist knows to check in with you before they start ploughing ahead with the fine details. At the end of the day, we want our customers to be happy. If the artist doesn't want to involve you and that makes you feel uncomfortable, you're always free to go elsewhere. As I mentioned earlier, reference photos are really useful. It saves a lot of confusion and misunderstandings down the line. If there's a particular hairstyle, dress, or a type of shoe that you don't know how to describe, send a picture, whether it's a photo or a wobbly line drawing. It can all help to give the artist an idea of what you're looking for. One caveat to this, though, is using other artists' work as inspiration. There can be circumstances where this is acceptable, but this is where things start to get a little bit more sketchy. It really depends on what you're asking for. If you've seen a general theme in a few pieces of art that aren't exclusive to an artist's style, then I think it's okay to reference that, as long as you're not expecting a direct copy. For example, if you've seen somebody make amazing mermaid dolls in a particular colour scheme, then I think it's okay to ask the artist to incorporate that. But what I've seen a lot of in the past is people messaging me to ask me if I can make a direct copy of somebody else's work because they're not available or because their prices are higher than mine. That's not okay. Those requests are usually going to get ghosted. Usage rights are another slightly shady area. When you buy a piece of art, you own the physical item. What you don't own is the rights to the design. Even if it's your idea, it's still the artist's original work, so you don't have the right to reproduce that and sell copies. Of course, you can take photos and share them on your social media with your friends. It's good manners to credit the artist if you do that. Please don't try and pass the work off as your own or photograph it for a commercial product without asking. If you want to use a doll for your band's album cover or to promote your business, an artist may be quite happy to help you with that. But they might take things like licensing into account with their pricing, so please make sure you check first. So with all that said, are there any other reasons an artist may refuse a commission? I've personally had to refuse requests in the past due to a number of reasons. Sometimes an artist may need to take time away from commissions due to health issues or problems with the workspace. If an artist is very popular, they might have a long waiting list, or they might simply just need a break. If they feel like your request is outside their usual style or remit, or it crosses an ethical boundary, then they're well within the rights to say no. You might desperately want an art doll with merino wool hair and a pure silk dress, but as I personally don't work with animal-derived materials, that would be a no for me. I'd of course suggest alternatives, but at the end of the day, I think it's better to research what an artist actually does before getting in touch. If an artist says they're not able to take a project on, please recognise that they are human. Artists are usually running a whole business by themselves, and sometimes it's just not possible to please everyone. If someone declines your request, then the correct way to respond is to say, "Okay, thank you," and move on. Please don't harass artists. I've had horrific harassment and verbal abuse in the past because I wasn't able to take on a project and people wouldn't take no for an answer. I had one person tell me in not so many words that they wanted me to not be alive anymore. And no one should have to handle that kind of stress for their work. Artists don't owe you access to their entire work schedule or their health records. And if commissions are closed, no matter how important you may believe you are, we don't have to give you a reason. If you feel like an artist is discriminating against you because of something like race, gender, or sexuality, then yeah, that's horrible and you shouldn't have to deal with that. But what you can do about it is going to depend very much on the laws in the country where the artist is based. In most cases, I'd say move on and find one of the very many artists who would be more than happy to work with you, myself included. Why would you want to work with someone who sees you as less than human anyway? Okay, so I've talked enough about the negative aspects of commission work. What about the positives? I've been honoured to work with some amazing people from all around the world on all sorts of different projects to make art dolls to remember special people and events. I'm always honoured and a little bit nervous when I have something like a wedding to commemorate. Wedding dresses can be quite challenging to reproduce in doll-size scale when you haven't seen the physical dress up close. But I'm always happy to have a discussion about it and see what I can do. One of my favourite ever commissions was for a regular customer who was having a gothic autumn-themed wedding. She wanted dolls to represent both her and her fiancé to put on display at the wedding reception. The tricky part was that the groom had absolutely no idea what she was up to, so all the planning had to be done in secret. During the months before the wedding, she sent me photos of the outfits they were going to be wearing and of herself and her fiancé, accessories, bouquets, hairstyles. It was quite a challenge, but it was a really fun project, and I absolutely loved seeing the photos of the day, including the happy couple alongside their mini button-eyed doppelgangers. At the time of uploading, I am open for commissions. If I have to close commissions for any length of time, I'll usually put a note up on my website. I did completely step away from commissions for a few years from 2020 onwards, as I completely changed my living situation and moved on to a narrowboat. It also became quite difficult at that time to source a lot of materials, and in 2025 that's only just starting to get better. There are still limitations to what I'm able to make because of space. My workspace is absolutely tiny and I don't have a lot of room for storage. But if you drop me an email, I'm always happy to discuss your ideas with you. If it's something I'm not able to do at this time, I'll let you know. I will put a link down in the description to my ordering info. If you'd like to see a commission that I completed recently, I'll put a video here where you can watch the process, and I'll see you next time. Bye.